Malacanang announces that President Bongbong Marcos will be in Washington, United States from July 20 to July 2022. In a briefing on Friday, July 11, Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro differs further details of President Marcos' trip to the Department of Foreign Affairs. In a media interview on Thursday, July 10, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said President Marcos and United States President Donald Trump are set to have their first bilateral meeting in Washington in a few days. According to Rubio, they look forward to hosting President Marcos in Washington. In a briefing on Thursday, Special Assistant to President Marcos for Investment and Economic Affairs Secretary Frederick Goss said the trade officials will leave for the U.S. next week to negotiate a better deal on the higher-than-expected 20% reciprocal tariff to be imposed starting next month. On November 19, 2024, President Marcos had a friendly and productive call with Trump where he expressed the Philippines' desire to further deepen its ties with the U.S. The police in the Philippine Coast Guard found on Thursday, July 10, suspected human remains stuffed in a sack on the lakebed of Taal Lake amid the search for dozens of missing sabungeros by divers from the PCG Special Operations Force. In a statement on Thursday, the Department of Justice said a team from the Philippine National Police Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, in coordination with the PCG, retrieved a white sack containing what appears to be burned human bones. The DOJ added the white sack was visibly identified and recovered from the lake bed during its preliminary inspection on Thursday. According to DOJ, the bones would undergo a forensic examination by the CIDG or the National Bureau of Investigation to establish whether they are human bones. At the same time, the DOJ said a DNA testing will also be conducted to identify any possible match with the relatives of the missing individuals. The DOJ also said this discovery could represent a significant breakthrough in the ongoing investigation. DOJ spokesperson Dominic Clavano IV told the Inquirer that the remains were found a few meters from the shore. Clavano said they hope to see remains that will match the DNA of those missing sabungeros. However, Clavano also said even if they do not find any body, what they will have to prove is the fact of death. The PCG previously said the search may be affected by the weather during this monsoon season when sudden storms hit parts of the country. Whistleblower Julie Dondon Patidongan, also known as Totoy, previously claimed that the missing sabungeros were buried in Taal Lake. A resolution pushing for the interim release and grant of house arrest to former President Rodrigo Duterte in a Philippine embassy has been filed in the Senate. In his unnumbered resolution, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is calling on the Philippine government to advocate before the International Criminal Court the interim release of Duterte. He proposes that the former chief executive be placed under a form of house arrest while awaiting trial. Based on his resolution, Cayetano says granting interim release for the former president would be beneficial to his health, all while presenting no risk to the integrity of the ongoing trial. The ICC currently has custody of former President Duterte after he was arrested and sent to The Hague, Netherlands for crimes against humanity he allegedly committed during his administration's war against drugs. The resolution details Cayetano's proposal, which seeks an arrangement with the ICC for Duterte's custody to be transferred to the premises of the Philippine Embassy in The Hague, Netherlands under a form of house arrest, modified house arrest, or any appropriate arrangement deemed suitable by the court. According to Cayetano, these arrangements would be subject to any conditions that may be imposed by the pretrial chamber, such as restrictions of movement, staying at a particular address, prohibition of contact with victims or witnesses, and compliance with summons. In his appeal, the senator cites Duterte's deteriorating health attributed to old age and prolonged isolation, warning that continued detention may severely impact his emotional and physical well-being. Furthermore, Cayetano says the least the Philippines could do for its former leader is to advocate for his release and make the necessary arrangements to accommodate him. Former President Duterte's confirmation of charges hearing is scheduled on September 23, 2025.